She said she was straddling him on the bed, not pinning him down, and she made clear of that in her story. She was just sitting on his legs, excuse me, and was questioning him about the girl that night. And he apparently didn't want to talk about it, and he kept saying that, kept telling her that, let me back up, before she got on top of him, they were laying down together, and she was talking about it. And Joe kept insisting he didn't want to talk about it, and she needed to be quiet. And she said that he had put his hand on her neck and said, "You need to be quiet. The kids in this house are more important than your life." She did tell me she wasn't holding him down. He could have gotten up at any time. And he ended up grabbing her arms, throwing her off, and got up and said, "I'm leaving. I'm not doing this." And that's when he started to put his pants on. She got up and was still pressing the subject. And
when he threw her off, did she say she landed on the bed, she landed on the floor?
She did not say.
Okay.
She did not say. She just said he grabbed her arms. And that's when we walked in. Joe is standing in his underwear. He is on her knees in front, and he had his hair in his left hand. And she's bawling, and he's just standing there. And he had jeans on the floor. I can't remember if he had one leg in or not, but it looked like he was trying to get dressed.
Okay.
So I rush in there. Keith grabs and helps her up, and I get Joe back, and I yell in his face, "Did you put hands on her? Did you put hands on her?" I'm cussing, and he just stands there and stares at me. Doesn't say a word. He's just blank faced. And I get Joe back, and I yell in his face, "Did you put hands on her? Did you put hands on her?" I'm cussing, and he just stands there and stares at me. Doesn't say a word. He's just blank faced. So I leave and take her downstairs to my bedroom, and we lay there, and she's crying. She's pulling hair out of her head, and she was rubbing her neck, and she started telling me what happened.
Alright, so we'll go over this form real quick and then we'll get started here. Today's date is February 11th, 2021, and the time is 09:11.
My phone, you're fine.
Okay.
Don't come CDO.
I'm being video recorded or just...
Video and audio
Oh.
recording. Yeah.
Should I smile?
Only if you want. This interview is being conducted at LPD PSS interview room. My name is Sergeant Jeremy Prater of the Lakewood Police Department. Also present with us is Lieutenant Lawler of the Lakewood Police Department. This interview is with Jane Czuleger. Jane, are you appearing here today freely and voluntarily without any promises, without any threats or duress to make a complaint against certain employees of the Lakewood Police Department or give information relevant to this investigation?
Yes.
Do you understand the importance of truthfulness in the investigation process and acknowledge that any false or misleading statements willingly made by you during the course of this investigation could result in a criminal charge being filed against you for RCW 9A 76-175, making a false or misleading statement to a public servant?
Yes.
Are you aware that anything you say may be used in an administrative hearing or in a court of law?
Yes.
Okay. So we brought you in to talk with you about the events that started on January 18th, should have been a Monday, and spilled over into Tuesday morning, the early morning hours, January 19th. Can you just kind of give us the overview, walk us through what that evening into the morning entailed?
Sure. We had Joe over for dinner. We ate some prime rib or something. We had great conversation, talked about therapy through the police department, how it's really effective because Keith does that, and we wanted Joe to know about it, mainly because I knew about the difficulties of their relationship and Joe, and they'd been going through a rough time. We were drinking, and I were drinking beer. Keith and Joe had some beer, and then they switched to some whiskey, and we played a couple games. And then we stopped playing games, and I went outside, and we're drinking beers, and there was an incident that happened a few weeks back at another person of the police department's house.
Okay.
It was just a gathering of friends, and I wasn't there, but Joe was. And Joe was pretty drunk, and Keith and I spent the night. And in the morning, Keith and I started driving home, and I said, oh crap, I forgot my purse. So we went back, and Keith went inside the house, because we had slept outside in their trailer. Keith went inside the house to get my purse and saw Joe and another gal on the couch laying together. And it was a big secret, a big deal. My girlfriends and I went back and forth. Do we tell her? Do we not? We don't want to hurt the relationship. We don't want to make it worse, blah, blah, blah. We ended up keeping it from her. Well, that night, I told her about it because she had started saying that she's had some questions and concerns about.
When you say that night, the night of
our gathering,
okay.
yes.
Just to make sure.
You know, I told her I'm sorry I kept it from you. She got mad, and then she was thankful because she had had concerns in the past already of Joe's promiscuous activity. So she got angry at Joe. She was crying. She was super upset. And I told her, do not bring this up tonight. It's a bad time. Wait till you're home. You can think about it. We've been drinking. It'll be a mess.
So was this when you were outside with her?
Yes, and Joe and Keith were inside.
Okay. And how much longer after that did they go upstairs together? Was it like fairly?
Yeah. So it was pretty late. About 2 in the morning, we went to bed.
Okay. And then
Joe,
what time was that conversation outside? Just so I have an idea of time frame.
midnight.
Okay, so a couple of hours
Yeah.
from the time you told her, but by the time they went.
Right.
During that time frame, did you see any type of conversation emerge between her and Joe
Not
about
in front
that
of
topic?
us. Nope,
Okay.
not in front of us. And she had told me, I'm not going to bring it up. I get it. And so they went upstairs to bed. Keith and I went to bed, and the guest room is right above Keith and I's room. So Keith was practically asleep, and I was not intoxicated to the point where I was making bad decisions. I was awake and I was listening because I could hear that shadow of a man's voice upstairs, if that makes sense, like mumbling,
Yeah.
but I couldn't understand the words. And he kept talking, and it started getting louder and louder, and I was waking Keith up. I go, Keith, I think they're arguing. Keith, do you hear it? And he's like, no. And then I hear a thump on the floor. So Keith and I both got out of bed. We ran upstairs, and Keith started listening in the door, and I can hear him crying. So I just go in, and I see Joe standing. Do you want me to demonstrate?
Sure.
Joe is standing in his underwear. He is on her knees in front, and he has his hair in his left hand. And she's bawling, and he's just standing there. And he had jeans on the floor. I can't remember if he had one leg in or not, but it looked like he was trying to get dressed.
Okay.
So I rush in there. Keith grabs and helps her up, and I get Joe back. And I yell in his face, did you put hands on her? Did you put hands on her? I'm cussing. And he just stands there and stares at me. Doesn't say a word. He's just blank faced. So I leave and take her downstairs to my bedroom, and we lay there, and she's crying. She's pulling hair out of her head, and she was rubbing her neck, and she started telling me what happened, and she starts apologizing. I'm sorry, Jane, I didn't want to talk to him about it, but I just couldn't help it. And so we started talking about it, and she said she was straddling him on the bed, not pinning him down, and she made clear of that in her story. She was just sitting on his legs, excuse me, and was questioning him about the girl that night. And he apparently didn't want to talk about it, and he kept saying that. Kept telling her that, let me back up. Before she got on top of him, they were laying down together, and she was talking about it. And Joe kept insisting he didn't want to talk about it, and she needed to be quiet. And she said that he had put his hand on her neck and said, "You need to be quiet. The kids in this house are more important than your life." And that stood out to me really a lot. I just
That's
thought,
what I told you he said that.
yes.
Okay.
So, mind you, I didn't hear any of these conversations. This is what he has told me from
Okay.
here on out. So, once that happened, she got on top of him and was still poking at him and pressing the subject, and she admitted that. And
Did she say why she was on top of him? I mean, I'm just wondering that.
maybe to get his attention.
Okay, but she didn't say anything, 'cause that's something you assumed. She didn't say, I got on top of him because he wasn't listening to me, or there
No,
was no...
she just said, I was just sitting on his lap, straddling him,
Okay.
trying to talk to him.
Okay.
She did tell me she wasn't holding him down. He could have gotten up at any time. And he ended up grabbing her arms, throwing her off, and got up and said, "I'm leaving. I'm not doing this." And that's when he started to put his pants on. She got up and was still pressing the subject. And
When he threw her off, did she say she landed on the bed, she landed on the floor?
she did not
Was
say.
that okay.
She did not say. She just said he grabbed her arms. And that's when we walked in. And I believe the thump was my iron. I had my ironing board out and my iron was on there, because I did find it on the floor the next day. Because it was a pretty loud thump. It wasn't like it was her head.
Okay.
And that's when we walked in. So that night when we were in bed, she was just talking to me about how she knows she needs to leave him. It's unhealthy, and this isn't the first time it's happened. And that
First time what's happened?
This
Infidelity or
assault.
assault?
The assault.
Okay.
And the infidelity. She's been suspecting it for years.
Before we get too far past it, for me, it's a big jump to go from I'm putting my pants on to I've got you in a hair hold on the ground. Did she give any clarification as to what transpired when he got at the foot of the bed to how she ended up on the floor?
She said she followed him to the foot of the bed and was trying to tell him, "You're not leaving, you're driving," right? And from that point on, I'm assuming that's when he put her on the ground to stop her from still attacking him with the conversations, right?
Okay. And did she give you any indication the bruises that you'd mentioned on the arm
She said that's when he had grabbed her and put her off, and I have
while she was laying on top of him on the bed?
sitting on top of him.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Sitting on- Okay.
Yes, they absolutely happened that night, those bruises. I did not see the bruises and take the picture until the next morning, because we woke up and she was rubbing her arms, like her arms hurt, and I had held her arm up and I said, "Oh my God." I mean, there's fingerprint bruises on both arms, and they had just bruised so fast. They were huge, in my opinion. But that we didn't fall asleep until 4 a.m. And while we were in bed, Keith was upstairs with Joe trying to talk to him about what just happened.
Yeah.
And I know he's going to give a statement, but this is what I know, that Joe just stood there. No remorse.
And we kind of interrupted you about when you were laying in bed with and you were starting to talk about some of the things she had said.
We talked for hours until 4 a.m.
So besides what she was describing happened upstairs that night, what else was she talking to you about? Do you remember?
The past and how these assaults have happened before, and that really stuck out to me. And we
She
just
gave detail, or was she speaking?
I know her hair's been pulled before. That's the only one I know of.
That she told you
That
about?
she told me
Did
about.
she say when that was?
No.
Or where? Okay.
No.
She didn't give you details. She was.
No.
Okay.
She just was talking about how this has happened before, that he gets angry, and she has been in the mindset months prior that she needs to leave, that she doesn't want to do this anymore. She had gone to visit family in Arizona, I think, she had told me that she went there to look for a place to live. She was going to just leave, but she just keeps coming back because Joe will get mad, and then he apologizes, and then things are fine, and then it's, you know, it has just kept going in that circle, or triangle, if you will. So the other things we talked about were mainly her feelings about all of this, and how wrong it is, and how sad she is, and lost, and doesn't know what to do. She was crying. She absolutely knew what he did was wrong, and she was very upset about it. And then we fell asleep. Woke up the next morning. That's when I took pictures of her arms, and she was still kind of sad. We went out to the kitchen and had coffee. And about an hour later, Joe came down the stairs. He said, "Good morning" to my child. Said nothing to me. And, well, he did say something to me. He said, "What's your plan? Are we going to go home?" And she just said, "I'm going to drink my coffee." And he said, "Well, I'll be in the truck." So he walked by me, patted me on the shoulder, said, "Thanks for having us," and walked out the door and sat in his truck. And then he texted her and said, "What's going on? Are you staying? Because I'm leaving." And so she left. And I told her over and over again, including the night before, "You don't need to go with him. You're staying here. Don't go home with him." And we have even talked about her moving in with us until she finds a place. And at that time, she was very persistent that she wanted to. She knows she needed to. And when she got up to go back outside to get in the truck, I told her, "Think about this. I can take you to your house to get your stuff later. You don't need to go." But she just said, "I want to go. I want to see what he says." So they leave, and Joe's child was not there either. I think that's important to know. They leave, and she texts me, and I have the text that she wrote me and said that Joe didn't say anything except, "I'm sorry I pulled your hair." And she had replied with, "You also left big bruises on my arms." And his reply was, "Well, you were on top of me." And that was the entire conversation they've had since, until he was arrested.
Okay. Any further, I have a few of the text messages that the deputy took photos from your phone. Was there any other relevant text messages that I didn't get information on?
The next time, I'm going to see which ones you have. Well, maybe I can pull my phone. I haven't erased anything.
Okay. I have the one where he says he just went straight up to bed. We got home like I figured he would.
Yeah.
He blames I can tell in what he said to in the truck, and then coming home and going straight to bed. You're right, no remorse. I took a shower, now eating something, and then I'm going to take a nap.
Slept in bed nowadays, let's go around. And next day, I texted her, and she had told me that she had court at 1:30 for Joe on Zoom, and that she needed a place for him to go. So she went and dropped him off at my house. And
that's Joe's kid?
Yes. Talking about that, he was there. So then court was over. She had asked what my address was so she could come back and get it. And she said that they put a no contact order in place. I feel so lost and broken. And
nothing more relevant to the actual incident or more conversation about that, just follow up from that.
Then she just asked questions about the arrest and why did this happen? I didn't want this to happen. We talked about how it was important that this happened, and this needs to be, the bottom of your hole, your time to go, and how she is worth more. I feel like I just fucked up Joe's life and he'll never forgive me. That's when she started to feel not so mad anymore. Now she was more worried about Joe and their life.
And that was the day following the arrest, or?
Yes.
Okay.
January 20th.
In any of those, does she talk about?
Would you like to read them?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Scroll back up and you can read through.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I'll look from here.
Okay.
I'll just make sure there isn't anything that we care about.
And just so you know, Jess, I don't want to get them involved. That's why I don't want to say their names. Should I just not? The place Joe's staying,
Okay.
Jess and I are really good friends, just like and I were really good friends, and we have a circle, like we're all great friends. And so Jess and I had been talking about it and what's going on, and if anybody's been able to reach out to her, because she's not talking to us anymore.
Okay.
So we're just really worried about her.
Okay.
She doesn't have anybody really to talk to about this, so.
You mean Jess here at work, Jess?
Just Butts.
Oh, Butts, Dave's. Okay, gotcha.
No other mutual friends that you have with her that say they've been in contact with her at all, or? And we have reached out to her, and I think it was just last Friday that she replied to us. So.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Our other friend just wanted nothing to do with it. She had nothing to say. They want to stay out of it.
Yeah.
Like they're sad about it. I do not know if she has reached out.
Okay. We also reached out to her. We saw her the night that Joe was arrested.
Mm-hmm.
We provided her with information, offered any type of support that we were capable of providing her with, and she has not reached out to us to seek that assistance. So,
Which sucks.
yeah. Unfortunately, and I'm sure Keith and you have talked about DV related, not just this incident, but DV in general, cyclic behavior.
The
It's a
victim
progressive
part
crime.
and not wanting to be the victim. And I get it. She wants to just help Joe now.
Right.
Because that's what she does.
Right.
She forgives him and she wants nothing more but to marry this guy, and Joe is the one that's.
Yeah. So I have the binder opened up, and that's a photograph.
It's my bed.
Your bed, okay, and who is the female? And then what is this photo depicting?
Her bruises
Okay.
on one arm.
And that looks like it'd be your right arm on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really tell fingerprint impressions. I can see a larger.
These are really bad pictures. And you want to see them on my phone?
Oh, yeah, sure. When we get to that point.
Yeah, I'm almost done.
You could definitely see them better in person, but you see the dots?
Yes.
Those I assumed were fingerprints.
Okay. All right. I just want to get context of what you're referring to for the fingerprint impressions.
And I had asked her when she had gone home if she had any marks on her neck because of her claim that he had grabbed her neck, and she did not.
Okay. And speaking of marks, and I know you were only in front of Joe for probably what I would assume is a brief amount of time, asking him to put hands on her. During that time frame, well, first of all, when you opened the door, was the lights on or off?
On.
Okay.
He was in his underwear.
Okay, so you saw that he was in his underwear, maybe had one pant leg on.
Mm-hmm.
Did you observe any marks on him?
None.
Okay. Did you specifically look for marks on him, or just none?
Well, I could see his torso and his face, and there was nothing that I saw that was outstanding that I noticed.
All right.
At all.
What we'll do is, I do want to take some pictures of the text messages when we're all done, and then these we can just email to her from her phone, so we have the actual instead of a photocopy. We'll actually have the photo.
Yeah.
So that's okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as I'm not getting in trouble for talking about it. I mean,
No,
very insistently said, don't talk to anybody, but I'm a girl. And
No,
this is
this
my
is-
best friend. I could help it.
This is just evidence to us. I mean, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure, because like you said, the photo of a photo doesn't show
It doesn't,
the
no.
same as the next, and I can save this to a drive and
Okay.
have the originals and
Yeah,
stuff.
I thought
And
the
there's some
originals
stuff
were-
in here, some conversation you guys had where she was talking about. I know you guys are put in a position, that sort of thing, so some of that we'll do when we're all done.
You want to just have her take screenshots and forward it to my cell phone?
Yeah, we'll do
You
that
can
when
do
we're all
it
done.
if you
Yeah.
want to. I don't mind you using
We'll work
my
on that
phone.
together, because we can
Okay.
do that offline here.
Okay.
So we're gonna have a.
Like, all of this is really hard for me because this is my girl.
Yeah.
And Joe I've known since high school. Like, we're great friends. We've been great friends with them. Never has this ever happened, or any suspect to any of this happening.
Right.
So it sucks that we're in.
Yeah.
Sucks that we're in this position because
Yeah.
we love Joe.
Right.
We love,
Right.
and this is just really hard.
Extremely difficult.
I feel like I'm stabbing them in the back, you know, but I know I care
Yeah.
about.
And you're looking out for her best interest.
Yeah, and Keith had said that night too, that he loves her, and this is so inappropriate that she doesn't deserve it, and he was pissed at Joe. But he was able to get him calmed down and in bed, and he wasn't even angry or, you know, having any outbursts. He wasn't even talking to Keith. He was just standing there saying, I'm going to lose my job over this. Well, she was on top of me. Like, those were the only words he said to Keith. Like, he was just talking to a brick wall,
Okay.
which was insane to me. He had no remorse. How does that even happen? At least say, yeah, I messed up, you know? Joe went to bed. Keith slept on the floor in front of the door just because he wanted to make sure that Joe didn't leave and he was safe.
When you left from upstairs to go downstairs did you have any more conversation with Keith at all until the following morning?
He just said, I'm going to stay up here with Joe.
Okay.
Take downstairs, you guys sleep there.
So there was no conversation between you and Keith about, should we call the police?
Well,
during, like, at that point when you opened the door, saw separated them, and
No.
before you went downstairs?
No. Because at that time, he didn't really, he told me that night that he didn't see him with the hair, because I went in the room first. I'm the one that saw it. And he had let go as soon as I opened that door.
Okay.
So Keith only knows what I saw. So talking to him, or Keith talking to Joe, trying to get the story, he didn't have anything except for what I saw.
Yeah.
And he had come back down and talked and asked her questions. Did he hit you? Anything like that? And she said no.
When was that?
After a week, Nita and I came downstairs and we're in bed.
Okay.
I mean, we sat in bed for 2 hours and talked.
Yeah.
And Keith had been going back and forth and making sure it was okay and telling us Joe's not saying anything. And was asking if she got hurt, if he hit her, and she said no. So at that point, Keith just thought it was an argument, even though I had said, well, he grabbed her hair. She's pulling hair out. And he continued he felt like it was under control, and it was 4 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and Keith was still drunk.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know how he was able to have a conversation. So they fell asleep. The next morning, Keith slept most of the day because that's just what he does with his schedule. He didn't get up till, past noon. And he had to take my daughter to swimming because I think I had to work. Something happened where I couldn't take her. So he took her. When he got home, he said, okay, I got to call the office. This has to be done. I don't know if he was processing it all day, and we hadn't been able to talk about it. He was asleep, and then we were all over the place, so we didn't have a chance to sit down and talk about what happened. And I was still texting with Nita. Jolson was there, but Keith wasn't there when Jolson was there. So that evening, we were able to sit down, and he's like, this is what I gotta do. So then I don't know who he called. One of you guys? Yeah. And that's when you told him, let's file a report. So he called the police right away. They came out that night,
Okay.
gave him our statements.
Before I forget, I wrote down Matt with a question mark. In one of your text messages, you said that you've been talking with Keith, and Keith is going to have to talk with Matt about this.
Keith wanted to call Matt.
Who's Matt?
Like,
Oh, okay.
because Matt and Joe are BFFs.
Yeah.
He wanted to call Matt to get a hold of Joe, to go over it and talk to him. Not because we needed to clear it, but just for somebody to go to Joe.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get a hold of him.
Okay.
Because we didn't know what Joe was going to do when he got home,
Yeah.
And we just wanted somebody to go over there, because he wasn't talking to Keith.
Yeah.
And we just felt that he would talk to Matt. But that was,
Okay.
after the fact, so.
Okay. So I'm gonna go over, most of these questions you've asked or answered already, but I wanna just clarify some of the points here.
Okay.
And this is based, I apologize up front if some of them sound condescending or off the wall. I'm asking these for a specific reason based on information that we've received, so. What was your level of intoxication during that night? Just ballpark it, were you mildly intoxicated? Were you fall down intoxicated? Were you blackout intoxicated?
No, I was very aware of my surroundings. I was not,
Okay.
barely mildly. I wouldn't drive, if that makes sense, but I was
Right.
very functional.
Can you estimate the intoxication levels of Keith and Jill?
Saying that night she wanted to go home. And I said, you guys aren't going anywhere. Joe was wasted. Like, when he gets drunk, he gets flirty and he's goofy. So we knew he was not driving. Was just more sad. Her and I had probably the same amount of beers.
She was sad. This was before anything happened?
This is after I had told her what
After you
happened.
guys
talked.
And that's when she was saying, I want to go home. And
Oh, okay. How about before you told her, was she at the same level you were?
Yeah.
Fairly mild? And then for Keith?
he's right around the same as Joe. I mean, they drank a bottle of whiskey between each other.
Okay. Would it be accurate if somebody were to say or describe both you and Keith as being heavily under the influence of alcohol?
Not me,
Right.
but Joe. Or not Joe, Keith. But he wasn't fall over drunk. He was just a real good buzz. I don't know how to explain that. But he wasn't tripping or...
Well, he wasn't, he wasn't falling down.
No,
He
no,
wasn't
no.
like sick.
No,
Passed
not at
out.
all. Not at all.
Okay.
Did you black out at any point because of the amount of alcohol you consumed?
No, neither one of them
Would you say your judgment was impaired by the amount of alcohol you
did.
consumed?
Not at all.
Did the amount of alcohol you consumed that evening cause you to hallucinate or see things that weren't actually there?
No.
Okay. Based on the amount of alcohol you consumed over the course of the evening, is there any reason for you to believe what you thought you saw transpire did not actually occur?
No.
Was there any indication throughout the night that something like the outcome was imminent?
Not at all.
Okay, up until the point where you actually told her about what you observed.
Well, even after that, right? You're saying there was
Will
no.
you explain the question again?
So, throughout the course of the evening, you had dinner, drinks, played games and stuff. There was no argument, no bickering,
No.
nothing that would indicate that.
They were super friendly. They were great. Nothing was. Nothing seemed to be awkward with them at all.
Okay. And then, obviously, now I know the answer to this question, but was there any lead-up or conversation topics or statements that you were able to catch on to as far as that you think might have led to what happened?
No.
And that would be,
What I told Nita about Joe and the random.
okay. And just to clarify on that, so January 18th was a Monday. You said it was a couple of weeks before that. Was it like a Christmas function?
Yeah,
or was
Matt
it
calls it something. Oh, it was at Justin Dave's house. I don't know what they call it. I guess they have it every year. But we gathered at her house. We had food and drinks, and Matt had a big slideshow we watched, and that's all we did. So.
And was it before, just so I get a base timeline, was it before or after Christmas, roughly?
I think I can look on my calendar.
Sure.
I think I have it. I believe it was after.
And in the text message you showed me, Jane, between me, she mentions a girl named Daisha.
That was
Is that the girl that he was laying with?
Mhm. Oh, where is it? I don't know that I have the date.
That's fine, but you
Oh,
think it
here
would
it is.
know.
It's December 12th.
Okay.
Butts party.
Okay. Keith Keith indicated he was awoken by you after you heard sounds coming from the guest bedroom. What exactly was it that you heard when you talked about the muffled male voice that escalated?
And then the thump on the ground.
And to clarify, you were already awake. It's not like
Oh, I was awake the
sounds.
whole time trying to listen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no like distinctive sound woke you up. You hadn't fallen asleep
No,
yet.
not at all.
Okay.
And Keith was probably in and out of sleep.
But you weren't out yet.
No,
You were just
I
like
was-
laying there trying to
I
go to
was
sleep,
laying.
but you could hear that.
Yep.
And what was your mindset? Why did you feel the need to wake Keith up?
Because I was worried, and I could tell that they were arguing, and I didn't want to go up there by myself.
Okay.
So
Before going upstairs, what was going through your mind about what might be occurring upstairs?
they were arguing.
Just arguing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Even though you heard the thud or the thump?
Right. And at that point, I thought, oh no, what just happened? I didn't assume anything. I just felt that I needed to go up there.
Okay. And I know you made it seem like it was relatively quick. Keith tried to listen outside the door. Aside from, you stated crying.
Yeah. I just pushed him aside. What
Did
are
you
you
hear
doing?
any other sounds? Did you hear
Joe wasn't
saying
talking at
anything?
that time. I didn't hear him talking. I just could hear him whimpering, like crying.
Okay. And I think you already did a good job of explaining what you saw when you opened the door. And it was almost instantaneous in my mind from how you explained it. When you opened the door, you saw Joe holding his left hand, her hair, and then he let
And
go.
she was on her
immediately.
knees, and then he let go immediately and took a step back.
Okay.
And is it possible that Keith saw a
Maybe. At the time, that night, he said he responded as if he didn't see it, but he might have, I don't know, you'll have to ask him.
Okay, just wanted to be sure.
And then you said he was crying. So in your mind, what mindset was she in? Was she
Very emotional.
joyfully crying?
No,
Was she
was
scared
emotionally
crying?
scared crying.
Okay, so they weren't having a good time at that point in
No.
time.
And as soon as Joe let go, she grabbed her head. She was like this, and Keith helped her up, asked if she was okay, and she was still crying. And I gave her a hug and took her downstairs.
Okay, and Joe said nothing,
Said
remained stoic,
nothing.
just stood there once let go of
Yep.
her hand, didn't
Yep.
move at all. Okay.
And I asked him multiple questions right then. Did you put hands on her? What did you do? What's going on? And he didn't answer me at all.
Okay. And just to recap, the only marks that you saw on anybody was the bruises on inside of both of her arms. And she complained that he had grabbed her neck. Did she give any explanation or did she go into any more detail?
I asked her that, actually. So they were laying side by side, or he was on his side, and he had just gone like this and was in her face saying the comment that I wrote, or not wrote, but said about the kids are more important than her life.
Did not inhibit her breathing that you're aware of?
Not that she said, not that she told me.
Was she complaining of pain in her neck from that, or?
She had grabbed it a couple times, said it was sore, and that's when I had asked her, why is your neck sore? And that's when she told me what he had said.
Okay.
She couldn't see any marks
No.
that were visible.
No, and I even asked her the next day, who knows if she had them, but she told me she didn't. And I didn't see any in the morning, so.
And there was no conversation between Keith and yourself about, I'm gonna take you down, so you just hugged her, picked her up and walked her downstairs?
He had said, take me to,
Okay,
I'm gonna
you're
stay with
ready.
Joe.
Okay. And then during your conversation with her downstairs, she had made other statements from prior instances, at least the hair holding event. That did she give you any details on time frame when that occurred?
No.
Any details at all, or just he's pulled my hair before?
Yeah.
Okay.
She also said, you have no idea, this has happened before. And I had asked what, and she said that he has pulled my hair. But to me, it seemed there was probably more things that have happened, but I don't know specifics. But that was just what I took from her comment, that this has happened before, what else has he done?
Right.
But I didn't get an answer from her.
The marks that you took photographs, there's no other photographs of any other marks that
No.
were on?
that she showed me. And I didn't even ask her if I could take those. And she showed them to me. I said, oh my God, put your arm up. And I took them.
Did she object to you taking the picture? Okay.
Well, you asked her to put her arm up, you
Yep,
didn't move
and
it,
she
she
did.
lifted her arm
Right.
for you.
Right.
You mentioned that when you were in your bedroom with her, she was running her hands through her hair, pulling hair out. Was there any other clumps of hair anywhere throughout the house that you? Okay.
Well, I found she had used the bathroom that night in my bathroom. The next day, her hair was all over the floor, toilet seat. I had to vacuum.
Okay.
There was some on the side of the bed where she was sleeping.
In your room or upstairs?
In my room.
Okay.
So on my bed, on the floor, because she had been doing this, combing her hair out on that side only. This one's been missing. I didn't see much upstairs though. It was just down in my room.
Okay. How would you describe her demeanor from the point you took her downstairs from the rest of the time before you guys fell asleep eventually?
Completely upset, crying, emotional. She was just super upset. I don't know how else to describe that. She was still crying, saying that I can't believe this happened, and I'm so sorry this happened at your house. She apologized a lot. And she kept saying she was sorry that she even mentioned it, and she shouldn't have talked about it.
Some of that's in the text I saw, that
Yeah.
she was saying these
Yeah.
things.
Okay. And the wording on this may be a little off, and I'll try to explain more if it is, but even after you fell asleep, you woke up, she came into the kitchen, had coffee and all that. Did you get the impression that what she was conveying to you was out of embarrassment, or was it out of genuine, this is what happened that just happened and I'm going to relay it to you?
I would say both.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay. And how would you describe the embarrassments? What kind of statements was she saying that?
Apologizing.
Okay.
Yeah, she just kept apologizing that this happened, and she was embarrassed that it happened in front of us, but she was definitely upset and sad and hurt that he did this to her.
Do you think that she was telling you all this stuff purely out of embarrassment, or?
No, because we're friends, and I'm a very outspoken person, and I ask a lot of questions, and I'm blunt. So whatever I asked, she told me.
Okay. And do you think that's because you guys are good friends?
I thought so.
Yeah. Okay. So I think you pretty much, do you have any questions about?
Well, I think, I'm trying to remember, and you can help me on this, Jeremy. I think, Jane, there was a mention in the deputy's report about you said you vacuumed up some hair. Where was that at?
In my room.
Okay. No, in your room, meaning the room you guys slept
The
in,
room
not
she slept in,
not upstairs. 'Cause I think there was some confusion as to what room that might have been.
Sure.
Either the deputy misinterpreted it or.
Well, what had happened, I hadn't been in that room until the deputy came, and I had said up the stairs, there could probably be some hair on the floor, and I showed him, and I remember saying, well, I don't see any here, but I don't, and I told him where I did see the hair, and all over my bathroom, on the floor next to the bed where she was sleeping, in the sheets, on the pillow.
And you had vacuumed some of it up or something? I think he wrote that. Did you not do that? Or?
I vacuumed, in the bathroom, on
Okay.
the floor.
Okay, so that's where he got that.
Right.
Okay, cool. Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Changed my sheets.
Anything else?
And you guys aren't talking now.
She's like, I've tried to reach out, she doesn't respond.
Okay.
And she's not talking to anybody, she's not even talking to Jess. So I don't know what's going on with her at all.
Jane, is there anything that I have failed to ask you that you would like to add to this statement?
I don't think so, I think I've said everything I know.
Okay. Has everything you said been the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay. The time is 09:54. We'll stop recording.
I'll go shut it off really quick. Give me a second.
Yeah, the question is, turns it off. Bye.